Alright, so here we are in the first of these. It's going to be a bit of a trial run, as you may say, because I don't have another person here. That's fine. But this is our week 1 of the PWC season 13. And we're going to go look at some of these games. It's kind of hard to decide which ones because we are in this first week. We don't have a necessary top seed favorites. I mean, there certainly are. For instance, you know, Tranel, Camel Convention, they tend to always do well. It's kind of expected of them now. Yeah, no pressure for you guys, but yeah, that's expected of you. I'm sure you already know. But at the same time, we have a lot of different close matchups that I've actually got pulled up here. We got 1 to 2 from each division, depending on which ones were the closest in this one, because we can't choose like we didn't have many hype matchups that were like, oh, this one is, you know, big one between the thing. Look at the standings. All these standings are, hey, look, these are 1-0, these are 0-1, and these haven't played. It's not a good track of this right now. So in the meantime, we'll just watch some of the best, I guess, closest games, you should say, closest games that we have to offer. And the first one we have is Gurtbilbo versus Lennart and LN. And here we're going to just look at our teams real quick going in here. Gurtbilbo coming in with the Articuno signature, I believe. Either that's yes, Articuno signature, and got the Mega Lopunny, Slowking, Dragonite, Keldeo. That sort of core versus the Lennart core over here. And I believe for Lennart, let's see here. Lennart, Brute Bonnet is our opposing signature, so our 2 captains in the first slots here. So, yeah, I suppose let's get right into it. This is where I would need a probable, like, secondary person to talk to about this matchup, and that'll be something we can work on as we go along. This is very much a trial run. That being said, going into it real quick, it's like, so we've got the Sun team over here from Lennart versus the not Snow team, because even though Articuno could run in snow, this one doesn't run around snow. And it's interesting because with that, the Sun does set up a really good attack here from this Incineroar here, who just gets a lot of fire damage boosting. But at the same time, you know, when you only have one as opposed to a lot of them, not much. And plus, Walking Weight can actually save you a lot of times against that. It's interesting though, like in this first one we tend to see a lot of those high value picks, and that's what we're seeing a lot from Lennart, and that's what we're seeing a lot from this other side. But the Incineroar pick I feel like was brought specifically for that Sun team and for that on and against, except the Gouging Fire now is actually in a pretty good spot, because Gouging Fire really does only have to worry about that Keldeo at this point. Can take down basically the rest of this team, except for maybe Slowking is well built against it, but we will see. But, I mean, I guess it's a little easier when you immediately sack the Ninetales and move into the Hatterene. Hatterene's going to Baton Pass out, Dry Passing into that Gouging Fire, which is in a very commanding spot right here in the Sun. Though it's interesting, with the Healing Wish, it actually makes that Sun very limited, as now that that Sun is up, it's up for the last time since Ninetales can't reset it. Conveniently, though, doesn't really matter, because it looks like under the right circumstances this Gouging Fire can really just cleave through the rest of this team. It even takes down Keldeo really quick, and this is where I would definitely need someone to talk more about it, because I'm not super familiar on some of these other divisions and some of these other teams and how they're built for each other, and it's hard, I feel like, in the first couple weeks as well for a lot of these coaches, because the coaches are all working on how does my team fit together and how does my team work, and a lot of times, even though it could seem like you drafted really well, it doesn't actually end up being that way, and you have to like replace stuff. That's why you have those trades in there to figure out which ones are working, which ones aren't. And in this situation, we see a lot of that sort of like thing where you send in a water type thinking, okay, I can send in a water type to take on that fire type Gouging Fire, and it really just doesn't work too well. However, at the same time, you get the kill back onto the Hatterene. It's still a 4-4 game. And moving in, we got the Seed Bomb coming out. It does a lot of damage into it, and now we're just going to sack the Gliscor just to get a fresh switch in, again into that Gouging Fire, which I don't know if anyone saw at the very beginning of the stream, but we actually had they have a Mon of the Week there, and this Mon of the Week was, of course, this Gouging Fire, who you can already tell why. They are just streaming through, and with Scale Shot now, it prevents any sort of anything. The only things can really take it down are going to be this Lopunny going in with the Fake Out. It's going to do a lot of damage, and with that flinch, it does set up the possibility that Dragonite, if it has that extreme speed, could possibly take down this Gouging Fire, but instead, you can't really switch in because of the Scale Shot, so Scale Shot is going to take down the Slowking, and now you can take down the Gouging Fire with a extreme speed or with a Fake Out. They're going to go with the extreme speed here to get that Dragonite out there, but unfortunately, yeah, this is where you get into problems, because even though you have that multi-scale allowing you to lead it, it's going to be in a really tough spot, because, ooh, actually, with the actual Dragon Dance, it actually sets up that speed difference, and extreme speed's going to hit. It does about 38%. The crunch is going to come in. It's a 1v1, and we're going to see Lopunny Mega get that Fake Out, and we're looking at about similar things, 40% versus 40%. First one to hit wins, and the first one to hit, of course, is that Mega Lopunny. So, I mean, honestly, we're seeing quite a bit, and this is, again, we're doing this as a trial run. I'll probably get a co-anchor for future ones of these, and I think the big part of this match was just how much this Gouging Fire was doing into the resists, right? We see this here. An intimidated Gouging Fire Heat Crash, 55% into that Incineroar. That is dangerous. So that's something you may not even think about sometimes when you're adding these into teams. I'm sure these people are at the top division, but at the same time, it's sometimes really difficult if your resists are taking over half to a -1 Gouging Fire. It's really dangerous. And so that really puts Gurtbilbo on the back foot, and just fighting back through that to just come down and take down the rest of the team, really quite impressive. Though I will say, there's some issues, well, not issues, but like some of the things that allowed Bilbo to get back in were things like Healing Wish. The Healing Wish was very nice for the Hatterene to get back up to full, but Hatterene doesn't really do a lot more in this battle, and that, you know, the Healing Wish going out loses you the sun. So I mean, it's overall a really close matchup, so you'll always take it, but you know, it was great for Bilbo to be able to make it back in and use their final speed, and with their priority, use that to their advantage to take it back from probably the brink there, since Gouging Fire was really in a commanding position for a lot of that game. So moving on into the Moonsault division, we actually have two matchups. We're going to be focusing on both TieDeGuy04 and versus Gotye, and GamerNotFound versus citricSage, two of them that are both 0-1 games. Looking at our standings, for those who aren't going to get covered because they're not close matchups and we don't know it right now, we actually do see that Gotye has actually gotten 2 matches done, so they're actually going to be 1-1 here soon, so that's an interesting thing to see. But looking at the London Lucario, the Aussie Kingdras, and the Wellington Ho-Oh, they're taking up the top 3 spots, and I guess Lion City Leech Life taking up there because they're technically Wellington Ho and Lion Leech Life with Starving Pig and Shadow are tied for 3rd, so that's cool to see in the second division. So they're doing a great job. They're having a great first couple things. So we're going to be focusing though on Bad Mons Might Work, on Garden City Grottles, on the Sleeping Snorlaxes, and on the Terrifying Tepigs. So let's go right into citricSage versus GamerNotFound, where we see the Wo-Chien and the Espeon leads. I believe Espeon is the let's see here, yes, Espeon is citricSage's signature Mon, and opposing him, the signature Mon, is that Wo-Chien. So we see both the signatures coming out immediately to start this game. Honestly, the Wo-Chien signature is a really dangerous one too, because once you can Terra out of that 4x weakness, now Wo-Chien's very hard to take down. So moving in, we get the immediate switch. I guess they're going for an anti-hazards lead there with the Espeon, but then they get into their Overqwil to get their own hazards up. However, now we've got the Celesteela, and looking at this team right now, GamerNotFound is bulky as hell. We got the Celesteela, we've got the Wochien, we got the Clefable. This is a very bulky team. Conveniently though, for citricSage, Zygarde is really actually quite good into this team because it does actually, it's able to set up sweep, which is going to be really nice, and it doesn't get walled by that Celesteela due to it having the one ground type move that can hit flying types. So, you know, that would be what I would be worried about. From GamerNotFound perspective, I would be worried about that, specifically the Zygarde possibly setting up, because this is a team that maybe is waiting more on Leech Seeds and passive damage more than it is any sort of direct damage. Speaking of direct damage, though, here comes the Wochien getting the first kill of the match, which maybe you wouldn't have thought of that coming, but actually Wochien's doing quite a lot of damage. And unfortunately, it's not going to do more because Zygarde's able to come take it out. But I think that was a more offensively built Wochien, which is interesting to see because usually we're used to them being walls. But with it being a signature, it has to do different things, different weeks. And that's one of the things you'll see as you kind of go through these weeks is you're going to be getting them in different ways that are really interesting. Anyway, the substitute gets set up by the Celesteela for free. That was about 50-50. Either you think it's going to stay in and maybe attack, so you're going to use that Leech Seed, or you think, okay, it's going to switch out into the Espeon. I got to get something else that's not going to harm that not going to harm myself if Espeon comes in. That's what they do. But the Fire type comes in, but that only sets up the Quaquaval. If Moxie is in a pretty interesting position, can they take it down? It's going to come down to if that doesn't kill, and the Bleak Windstorm lands, Quaquaval is down. So we're staying 4v4 here, going in with the Ursaluna. And that's a Bleak Windstorm that does miss. There it is. And that's, I mean, I don't think it really mattered because Ursaluna I don't think dies to that. But it does take some damage that matters in a close game like this. And that's the problem with those Bleak Windstorms, those Hurricanes. Because now, yeah, that Chi-Yu would have killed Ursaluna, or the poison would have killed Ursaluna had that Bleak Wind landed. But now Ursaluna gets that extra kill. So now it's down to a 3v2 game, but still GamerNotFound with an advantage because of that extra Mon, because of that miss on Bleak Windstorm. And, ooh, gets with the Hyper Voice. And it doesn't do much because it's Dark Poison, but because of that Dark type, it doesn't do a little either. It's right in that middle spot. Now Celesteela's going to come in. Celesteela, really, it's just an awkward spot here because with Celesteela out there, you want Zygarde to come in, but at the same time, you don't want Zygarde to get that Leech Seed on them. Luckily, that defense drop from the crunch is actually going to make it so Celesteela isn't able to stay out there. Clefable's going to come in on the crunch to not do much. Unfortunately, though, it's only a few turns left for this Overqwil, despite any sort of damage, because it doesn't matter, though, because that one layer of Toxic Spike gets Barbarage. I just realized Barbarage, it does work like that Venoshock, and it does a ton of damage, but it's down to a 1v2. The special defense buff from Celesteela is going to do nothing at this point. It's just Zygarde versus Celesteela. Zygarde here goes for the 1,000 arrows. I guess there's no setup. A Dragon Dance there would have been really good because there's not much Celesteela can do, and Dragon Dance could have set up the outspeed and higher damage that maybe needed to take down this Altaria. However, it does not matter because he gets left on 1%, and that's about as close as you can get right there. Left on 1%, he's able to take that Hyper Voice, come back with the faster 1,000 arrows, and that is your win. GamerNotFound, the luck eventually turns around on him, and citricSage is able to barely take them down. Now, I will say, I feel like the key parts of this match, and I would love to have another person to talk to me about this. Key part was, again, the luck element. And this is you're not going to have the exact same experience every time you play Pokemon. And that's what we saw here. We saw the Bleak Windstorm miss Ursaluna, which allowed Ursaluna to then live the Flamethrower from that Chi-Yu, and it allowed it to kill it and back. But at the same time, though, we saw at the end this has a completely different scenario. Also, I will say another thing that we don't see, but is just as important, is just for every move that misses, every move that doesn't miss is just as important. Because you see stuff like the Leech Seed. That Leech Seed, I believe, never missed in the entire match. That could have made it a little less close. But overall, it doesn't matter. citricSage pushed through a lot of RNG there to take down the win 1-0. So now let's move into Tie the Guy versus Roarlax, which is the matchup, which that would be Tie the Guy 04 versus Gotye. If I'm not pronouncing that correctly, please let me know. I am doing my best, but I would love to learn how to pronounce it. I would learn how to pronounce it properly. And looking at signatures here, we're going to be looking at the Wheezing versus the Drifblim. Drifblim actually is a really fun one. I love seeing Drifblim, and honestly, Tied to Guy's whole team is a really fun one. I love seeing the citricSage, I love seeing Drapion, and I don't want to be biased, but I'm rooting for Tied to Guy here. Moving in though. Ooh. I mean, that's rough. That's rough there, because you don't want that substitute setup, and at this point Suicune can kind of just do what they want, because yeah, Drapion not doing a ton of damage, especially after that burn, and now Suicune just has that sub up. Drapion isn't really able to do anything, and it's all because of a slower taunt. Just unfortunate. I believe looking at 317, 295. So if Drapion was of a higher speed stat, then technically Drapion should have been able to outspeed and guarantee that onto Suicune. Unfortunately though, it's not working, and unfortunately for Tied to Guy, the taunts are not going in his favor today. Good switch in from Sableye, good Mega Evolve, and you can't taunt that Sableye when they're Mega Evolving, unfortunately, because Magic Bounce is just that powerful ability. So now we'll see this hexing Sableye here. And a lot of times with Mega Sableye, I feel like he takes on more of a defensive pivot sort of role, but it looks like this one with Calm Mind is actually quite a big offensive threat into Tied to Guy's team, except for Drapion really, because of that dark typing. Oh, predicting in on that thing, the Libero's been spent. Cinderace is now Poison type until he switches out. Not that it matters too much for Drapion. Drapion's going to go down, but now Gallade's got that super effective. It's going to force out a different Mon. It's going to be the Moltres, and he predicts it. The Mega Gallade goes in, gets the Stone Edge. Stone Edge hits. There goes Moltres. But we're going to see Deoxys come up, Deoxys speed in a setup mode. Not as much the leading member you would think it would be, but instead the setup Deoxys, which gets the Psycho Boost, takes down the Tapu Fini. Ooh, and Drifblim immediately going to get that Misty Terrain, Misty Seed boost. It's going to be unburdened, it's going to be very fast. Actually faster than this Deoxys speed, which is quite the feat. Drifblim now with a pretty strong position now, multiple Calm Mind set up, has that special defense boost, and now Drifblim might be able to get a good sweep here. We know this is going to be, we know that there's going to be a close matchup here. It's going to be 1-0 at the end of this, but this is why. The Wheezing, not ever tearing. Neither of these signatures actually Terra. Both of them go down though on the Custap Berry Destiny Bond. Great to stop that sweep, because there's no other way I don't think that Drifblim was going to go down there. Unfortunately though, just from one setup sleeper to another, citricSage gets the boost on that weakness policy there from the Scald. But Suicune is faster, so unfortunately citricSage not getting kill with Poltergeist means citricSage is going to go down unless it can Shadow Sneak there, and that's what Suicune was scouting out with that Protect. And now he's going to Protect to see what he's going to do next. He's going to go Stone Edge. So now, yeah, Suicune's going to go down, but he's got the scouting out. He's learning what this Gallade's got. You know, sure, he already knew that. Oh yeah, this Gallade has that, but, you know, in the sense he's trying to do that scouting, and he's doing it quite effectively. So now we have the Cinderace, which is Poison type. It's going to go with another Gunk Shot, doing a ton of damage, and he gets the Poison. At this point, that's about it, because now with that Poison, he's able to get the kill, but with the Poison damage, Roaring Moon goes down. It's going to be a 1-0 win for Gotye or Roarlax, with the Sableye not even needing to make an appearance at the end of this game. And that would be, yep, that's your first win for the Sleeping Snorlax, and of course for also the Garden City Grottos with citricSage. Moving on to our third division, we have the Sky Strike division, and today we will be looking at forthelegion versus bummerr. The 1-0 win is by forthelegion, so we'll look in there. We also see a week 3 matchup's already been completed, so we might cover that here. We might cover that later, even though it's already been done. So we might be covering some older matches later in the weeks, just because we're going to be covering them week by week, not when the actual matches occur. However, so we're going to be seeing the Holy Crusaders versus the Monkey Marauders, and looking on our rosters, we're going to have the Wo-Chien once again, I believe, as our, yep, Bummer's with the Wo-Chien signature, and I think we're going to see Wo-Chien just pop up quite a bit, because Wo-Chien is just very, very powerful with that Terra ability. So if you can get Terra on it, you really want that. On the other hand, we're going to see Farigiraf, which has been one of the more surprisingly good Mons from Gen 9. A lot of really good high-end Gen 9 Mons, but also in the lower tiers, Farigiraf's been impressive to a lot of people, especially it's been impressive in VGC, but even in singles. Singles, it's been a low-tier threat, so let's see how this goes. Yeah. Immediately, Farigiraf's got the immediate advantage here with the Nightshades coming out and with the Toxics coming out, as it's just going to take the damage. Wochian going to come right back out, though. We'll see if it's that Terra Poison. It is that Terra Poison, and Farigiraf instead is going to protect, so it's at least you're not wasting your turn on Toxic, because that would have taken damage from the knockoff. However, the Sap Sipper comes out, the Leech Seed's going to do nothing, and instead just boost the attack of Farigiraf. Not that I think it matters too much, because from what we can tell, it doesn't look like there's any attacking moves on this Farigiraf that are affected by that whatsoever. So it's just going to be a switch around here as we try to figure, as the Penguin here tries to figure out how are we going to take down this Farigiraf. Farigiraf is Wish, Protect, Toxic, Nightshade, quite the stall heavy type of Farigiraf, and you can see exactly why. It's just sitting here. And the Burn's going to come out. Burn doesn't really matter. It does slight damage, but the only thing it does would be to remove leftovers or do slight damage. Oh, but we do see the Hex. So Cofagrigus does have that Hex, does have a chance to actually do something there. And with the Pain Split, yeah, Cofagrigus can scare out that Farigiraf. Instead, it's going to go to Melodic, which has the Marvel Scale Burn. However, that's also dangerous around that Cofagrigus, which does double its Hex power, even though it doubles the Marvel Scale, so it's kind of just balanced out. However, Wochian now getting low on HP, Mega Loopy doing a lot of damage, and it's just going to be a bit of a switch around here as we try to get they're trying to get into position. We have a couple like very bulky Mons on each side with that Marvel Scale Melodic and Farigiraf versus that Wochian and Cofagrigus. And how are they going to get around that? The person who can get around these two bulky Mons per side, first person to do that is going to be in a commanding position, as they're going to just have so much more health than the opponent. And I think we're seeing a lot of it, but the Earthquake on the Roost, that is a huge move, and Swampert takes down the Zapdos right before going down itself to the Toxic. That is a great call by Bummerr the Penguineer. I move in, we're back into this sort of game here between Farigiraf and the Cofagrigus. Farigiraf's just going to let that Toxic damage burn up. Cofagrigus is not in the greatest position here, especially considering, yeah, it's not going to do too much there. Cofagrigus is only on 16%. Nightshade's going to fill it off, and there's one down. Farigiraf, with the Wish coming back in, Farigiraf's still very healthy, very in charge. The Air Slash is going to come do some damage, and there's the flinch. And that's what you did not want to see, as Left There Be Truth. You did not want to see that flinch, because that flinch makes it change from Farigiraf being able to stall out this Togekiss to instead being threatened out to keep it in the game for later in the game. Now Sylveon's coming in, it is parried, but now with the Pixelate 1 Calm Mind boost on the Hyper Voice, it's going to be in a great position to do a lot of damage. However, they're going to move out of the way because Ogerpon can take down it, and Farigiraf's going to come in, Farigiraf's going to go down. At this point, Farigiraf's health is so low, you gotta do it. So there's one bulky Mon left per team. Lopunny's gonna come in and take down the Ogerpon, but now Latios is coming in to threaten that out. So Milotic, the other one, comes in, and Milodic's actually gonna take a lot more than I think Let There Be Truth maybe was hoping there, because now he's gonna be forced out. Sylveon's gonna come in with that special defense, high special defense on the Sylveon. That is good for Let There Be Truth, but unfortunately, Wochian with the Poison Terra is actually really good bring for this matchup. Milodic's going to get the recover off, but the Leech Seed's going to come out. So even though that recover is necessary for Milodic to stay around, it's going to kind of allow Wochian to really stick itself in a pretty good spot. The knockoff of the Flame Orb doesn't really matter at this point, but Wochian's just healing up, and Ice Beam's going to do nothing. Ruination's going to come out to 50%. Yeah, Wochian wins this 1v1 here. So we will see if it's just a sack, which it looks like it will be from the Milodic. And there we go. The Leech Seed's going to sap it down, and full health Wochian is left. And now it's going to be difficult for Let There Be Truth, because with that health of the Wochian, with the flinching ability of the Togekiss, there has to be a way for them to get back into this game. And now he's going to switch right back into that Wochian, because why not? It's not going to take any damage. It's really in a great spot around the Sylveon. Terra Blast is going to do huge damage into the Let There Be Truth. And it's really difficult at this point. Wo-Chien has been set up into a great position. It's the last bulky mon left. The only thing that matters is this Lopunny, though. Because with that power-up punch, it's going to be dangerous, and you can't just stall it out because it's going to be building those attack boosts, and eventually it's going to be able to do huge damage into this Wo-Chien with a return. So what is Wo-Chien going to do to try to keep this thing away from that level? It's going to just keep hitting. And the return's going to hit. That's going to do 83. It's not quite enough. And Lopunny goes down. Now, Wo-Chien is at low health, so Gouging Fire should be able to take this thing out. But it's going to go with the setup because that's the only way it can win the full matchup. That's a good play. And now with the knocking off the heavy-duty boots, it doesn't matter much. It just allows the Penguineer to know that, oh, yes, it's not Scarfed. It's not that. Obviously, they know it from the second that they use the... And there's the sweep possibility here. That Dragon Dance is the only way that you can win there. And it will be the way that Let There Be Truth wins. Gouging Fire making huge plays on now the second match here. We had the 4v1, we had the 4-kill one in the upper division, and now Let There Be Truth turning it around on the Wo-Chien with that double Dragon Dance sweep from the Gouging Fire to win it from the brink. So yeah, moving into our 4th division, the Twinkle division. We've got the ultimate battle of all the Twinks, but here we go into our first match. The first match we're going to cover here is going to be Design is Passion. Very long time. I believe they've been around longer than I have here in this server. We have Deadpants versus the regenerating, not regenerating, Regigigas. So let's look quickly at their signatures just to get an idea of what we're looking at here. From Deadpants, we are going to see the Frostlass signature, and from the KawaiiiPotato, we see Guzzlord. Guzzlord, it's an interesting one because I feel like Guzzlord, at that 3 points, being a dark dragon type, people think, oh yes, Terra is going to be really good on it, and it can be very good, but Guzzlord is also just, there's a reason it's in 3 points. So let's see how we start off here. We get the lead Guzzlord versus the Druddigon, and Guzzlord immediately deals a ton of damage, but not enough to take down the Druddigon, who's just going to get out of there, and now Guzzlord really not able to do too much with that lower special attack. It shows the Magic Guard on the Clefable, no one's surprised, as those rocks are up. So now they're going to have to clear these rocks because, yep, that right there. You cannot have any boots on the Ogre Pond, so it's going to take that 25%. It's going to get taunted by the Frostlass, but the Frostlass is basically going to go down to a Focus Sash, and they're going to have to sack in order to get this thing down, but it's a sack on a Trailblaze, so now it's even faster. Ogre Pond immediately with a great position here. Unfortunately, though, Sludge Wave out of the Landorus shuts up the Ogre Pond, and now another 25% because it's Mega Aerodactyl, who cannot have boots again. The Rock's very strong into this matchup, even though boots have been around for a while, and people think Rocks aren't that good anymore. Rocks are very powerful into this matchup with these multiple Pokemon who cannot be wearing those boots. So now we see the Heavy Slam come out of the Ursaluna. Ursaluna now with a bulk up. And now it's going to be an Ursaluna v Ursaluna matchup. The special attacker versus the physical attacker. 71% out of that Blood Moon. But unfortunately, with the Citrus Berry and with the Drain Punch, it's going to go right back up. And there you go. It's like it never even happened. Blood Moon's going to come right back out. It's going to go back down to 13%. But the Drain Punch is enough to finish off the Blood Moon. And original Ursaluna is winning. So now the Moonblast comes in. He's going to live on 3. The Heavy Slam is enough to take out that Clefable. So there goes. And now... Ooh, with the Rocky Helmet on that Clefable, though, that takes down the Ursaluna. So now it's a 3v2, though it's really a 2v2 for this reason alone, because Frostlass was at 1 health. It gets the Cursed Body Disable, though, on that Triple Axle, preventing the Hitmontop from hitting the Triple Axle onto the super effective Mon. And now it's going to switch back into the Guzzlord to try to block some of the damage. Rapid Spin's coming out. Getting that speed boost, it doesn't really matter at this point because I believe that Serena outspeeds both of them at any point. Triple Axle's going to come do some damage, but that massive health pool of the Guzzlord is just going to allow it to survive. Drop a Draco, and there it goes. It's down 2-1. Deadpants comes in the Zero Aura, last chance. Close combat is enough to finish off that Guzzlord. So now it's down to Hitmontop versus the -1 Zeraora. The Plasma Fist comes in for a big damage. Close combat only does 36%, and that is your game, because so long as there's nothing crazy, Bullet Punch comes out, does not do anything, Plasma Fist comes in, and that's a 1-0 victory for Commander Deadpants, a veteran of the PWC. So, very much those close games on week 1 are always kind of scary, but you're going to take them if you can win them, and Deadpants knows that from being around so long. I think with that one, I mean, we see at the end they're talking about forgetting Terra was a thing. That's another thing. Just getting used to how PWC works, getting used to that Terra captain. A lot of those singles players are not used to having Terra be legal too often. So yeah, you gotta remember Terra's a thing, because Terra Guzzlord would have been really useful in that matchup. But we'll see. But yeah, I think what we see here, some of the key points of this game that allows this game to win. It's a very close game, but the survival of that Ursaluna, I think, was very key to Commander Deadpants winning that game. Very key to Design His Passion's victory, and also just the damage coming out from the heavy slam on things that maybe you weren't expecting to do quite as much damage. The heavy slam taking out the Clefable, that's great. You expect that. But having that on there, it just really expands the amount of danger that this opponent is in. And the other thing, we see the Citrus Berry. A lot of people expect that Flame Orb onto the Ursaluna, or maybe like an Assault Vest set to maybe help against that Ursaluna matchup. But the Citrus Berry was actually much more valuable, because with the one bulk up, you really didn't need too much more damage out of that Ursaluna, and with Citrus Berry and Drain Punch, it was able to take down that other Ursaluna really quickly, just because it could heal off all the damage from Blood Moon in that turn that Blood Moon wasn't able to be used. So yeah, the bring of the Citrus Berry on that Ursaluna was really key to the victory. And I think even it could have been even a little closer had Frostlass not taken so much damage so early from that Ogerpon. The Ogerpon was an immediate momentum setter for KawaiiiPotato. It was just that Ursaluna was able to come in and take care of business. Alright, moving on to Division 5, the Doom Division. The Doom Division, also, we're going to have 2 matches from. We're going to have DelphinSquared Nightcell, and then Vortex 0152 versus Sadie90. That'll be the Pacific's Vitrolage, the Red Spark Vicavolts, the Esper Espions, and the Boogie Woogie Blastoise. And now, I will say, there are 4 people who haven't played in this yet. If you want to get featured on the thing, you got to play your matchups on time, so, you know, unfortunate for them. Maybe we missed a matchup, but it's fine. These are the closest ones we've got. So going into our first one, we've got DM Vortex versus Sadie Draft. Sadie Draft being our being Sadie90, and then DM Vortex being Vortex. Looking at our different teams, our signatures for this each side is our, let's see here, from Sadie90 we have the Poliwrath, which is interesting. From Vortex we have the Hoopa. It's crazy to think, though, that both of those are like uncommonly used ones. Poliwrath, of course, is very like I feel like forgotten in terms of many Pokemon being in the game that are just outclassing Poliwrath in a lot of different situations. However, the Hoopa, you'd think, oh, that's a legendary. Why is it in 4 points? When you could also, it has 4 times weakness, but it also gets that Terra, so it ignores that. So we'll see these both underutilized signature mons in this week 1 matchup, and see what they can do. Alright. Mega Aerodactyl coming out. Is going to use the Fire Fang immediately. Maybe just make sure that Scizor is either dead or it comes out. And now Iron Treads comes in with the speed that maybe the True Rock Setter here. Yep, that is the True Rock Setter coming in on the Bolton. And then the Ice Spitter hitting for 47%. The Clangorous Soul comes out. It's an Omni boost, but now with the Ice Spitter, it's only down to 20%. Can Iron Treads outspeed with the Photosynthesis boost? It can, and there goes the Kangmo-o. Is it Kangmo-o? Yeah, it's, no. Como-o. I mixed up the 2 of them. Doesn't matter. Because then we see the fighting type with the Terra Blast, not Focus Blast, because you can tell because it actually landed. But now we see the Rabombi come in. It gets the sticky webs up. A lot of hazards up for Sadie over on Vortex's side. It doesn't quite take down the Landorus though, so now we go into the Glaceon. Landorus still on 5%. The Ice Shard comes out, but still, you've now revealed that there is Ice Shard on this Glaceon, and it's still going to be able to be enough to maybe take that out, but it doesn't even going to matter. It's going to switch into the Petrarunt, who's now going to take a big damage because it's not on its physical side where it's a lot more bulky. Petrarunt with the Shadow Ball is going to go for 31% onto that Scizor. Scizor in a great spot though, because even though it is doing physical damage, it is also very resistant until that special attack comes out. However, the knockoff comes in, the Rocky Helmet is revealed, and the Shadow Ball is going to be enough to take down with that Rocky Helmet, or if that Rocky Helmet damage, it guarantees that kill. Now, Petrarunt with the 2-time special attack, unfortunately not fast enough. Even when Boltund is -1 speed, Boltund still outspeeds. However, the Terra Ground from the Poliwrath is going to be revealed. Bulk Up comes out. It's going to be setting up. Can Vortex take it down before it really gets going? The Drain Punch gets revealed, and this is a very strong Poliwrath at this point. 2 Bulk Ups now. There's not a real ton that this Melmetal can do to it, except it can maybe take it for a ride with that Acid Armor, plus likely a Body Press in here, just not taking a ton of damage. Acid Armor back up to maximum defense. Now, will this Poliwrath be able to break through this wall before the Body Presses do it in? The Body Presses can do about a third, but with the leftovers revealed and the Drain Punch, that's more like a fifth. So yeah, this is not very much of a win for that Iron Hand, not the Iron Hands, why am I saying Iron Hands? Melmetal. Though let's be honest here, this is more Iron Hands than the actual Iron Hands, because they are literal Iron Hands. Regardless though, oh, it lives on 4. And that Body Press is going to be just enough to take down the Poliwrath. I will be wrong. The Melmetal, even though it's a lot healed off, Melmetal is barely able to take it down before Glaceon comes into Revenge Kill. Now we have the Hoopa on 9%, dropped in speed, and now it should be a cleanup for that Glaceon, taking it down with the Ice Beam. Now 7% left, even though that Boltund does outspeed. Oh, it doesn't even outspeed. That Glaceon is just fast. Likely looking at maybe a Scarfed Mon, because let's see here. If Boltund was fast, we're looking at 375 times 2/3. That's about 225. So I guess actually technically, yeah, Glaceon at max speed can outspeed. So the Ice Shard was just for a couple Pokemon, or maybe it was there for if we were in this situation without that Sticky Web. Regardless, well bringing Glaceon to take down and revenge sweep, basically. Taking down a bunch of low health Mons and being the Vulture that Sadie needed to win this game. And I think that's probably going to be our key points of this game here, was this Glaceon coming in and taking them down. Like, I believe Glaceon took over, I believe Glaceon had, let's see here, 1, 2, going back past this Melmetal fight, let's see here, Glaceon also had, I know, just a third, okay. Got the kill onto Shift Secrets, which is that Landorus, got kills onto the Boltund, and got kills onto the Hoopa. However, you know, on top of that, we see the Scizor barely losing that fight against the Petrarunt, and I think that was just a matter of getting the about 50% on that Shadow Ball, and then the knockoff, removing the Rocky Helmet, but unfortunately taking damage from said Rocky Helmet, being just enough to guarantee that a low roll would not leave the Scizor standing. And that's just, I mean, that's just good, that's good prep to bring that Rocky Helmet on the Petrarunt. Very common set from Petrarunt, given its really high physical bulk. So now moving into DelphinSquared versus Nightcelestial, we have another Ogerpon Hearthflame coming out, and this time against the Tyrantrum. We're looking at signatures of that Braviary and Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum, a very popular signature mon. We're looking at, even though it's Rock Dragon, you can Terra out of that, and one of the best Dragon Dancing Terras in the game. You know, I used Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum was very fun. My team was not very good, but the Tyrantrum was very fun pick. It's got that rock head, so the normal sets usually run Strong Jaw with some combination of like Psychic Fang and Crunch or something like that with your Dragon Dance, you Dragon Dance sweep. However, I loved using the rock head with the head smash in there, because even though it's 80% accurate, it is one of the most powerful moves you can pull off without recoil. So let's see if that's a part of this Tyrantrum set. Moving in, we're going to immediately get that Ogerpon out. We're going to get the Ogerpon out of there, and the Dragon Dance is going to immediately come up. But no, it looks to be that Strong Jaw Crunch set from the Tyrantrum. It doesn't Terra, though. And the lack of Terra makes it so Bronzong can immediately take down that Tyrantrum. That's big threat gone from Nightcelestial's team immediately buy a Bronzong. Bronzong then going to land a body press, do 50% Cradily, but then has to switch out. And the Ancient Power is going to come out and get the Omni boost from the Cradily. Cradily with that 10% immediately landing. The Terra Blast is only going to do 12%. Now Cradily is going for another Ancient Power. Does not get another boost, thankfully, because that would be a lot of hacks. But now Cradily in a really nice spot here with an Omni boost on. The knockoff's going to only do 23%. Lose the leftovers, but the Sludge Wave is going to come in for 63. No poison, luckily, but the Woodhammer is not going to be enough to kill, and in fact, it's the only one that Woodhammer is going to kill is the Ogre Pawn. Now, Cradily is eventually going to go down here, probably right now. Yup, there goes the Cradily, but that boost was very scary, and it was able to kill that Braviary and the Ogre Pawn due to it. Now, Scizor is going to come in. Bullet Punch does not quite do enough, and reveals the Rocky Helmet, which does do quite a bit to that Scizor, who's now going to switch out into the Maushold, which is dangerous, because even though it's only at 3%, Population Bomb is going to do enough, so it's only going to be one Rocky Helmet hit. But with that Rocky Helmet hit into the Maushold, it's always scary going into any Rocky Helmet team with Maushold. Population Bomb is going to do 11%. That's going to be enough to kill that Kyurem. Wow. Just, ugh. When you're on the wrong end of this, when you are slower than that Maushold and it's just landing Population Bombs, it is one of the worst feelings in the world. Conveniently, though, the Rain Dance is going to come up actually. Jolteon's not going to Revenge Kill on the Maushold, and instead going to do the Rain Dance. However, it's going to get the Flame Orb boost for Quick Feet. It's going to be very fast in the rain, so that Thunder... Is there Thunder on this team? No, he used Thunderbolt. He has Weather Ball, though, for 71%. Unfortunately, just not enough health to really deal with this Great Tusk. It's only going to take 70%. But now with the Gardevoir coming in, Gardevoir has one chance left, but it really doesn't matter because Scizor is going to come in. That is a fun set with the Rain Dance Weather Ball from that Jolteon. However, I will say a couple things. With that Jolteon, if you're going to run Rain Dance and you're going to just force that Rain Dance first turn, probably a Thunderbolt would have been a much better option into that Maushold. And if you're going to run Rain Dance and you're going to do that, why don't you run Thunder if you're going to force it? If you're going to force it, run Thunder just for that extra base power. It doesn't really matter too much in this situation, but it was a wasted turn to go for that Rain Dance immediately and to no discernible benefit because you still have Thunderbolt on it. You should have just used Thunderbolt on that first turn, maybe take out that Maushold before you take any of that damage. But regardless, it's a 2-0 win for Nightcelestial, and for Nightcelestial, it was the Maushold. Like, Maushold claims 3 kills here, and unfortunately that Bronzong was just very low when Maushold came in, so even though the Rocky Helmet was there to counter Maushold, Maushold didn't really care because it only needed one hit to take down the Bronzong, and 16%, while is not nothing, is also, you know, enough that Maushold can keep rolling through. With its high speed, it's going to take down the Kyurem, it's going to take down that Jolteon because that Jolteon doesn't do that Revenge Kill, and that was basically the deciding factor in that battle because once Jolteon goes down, Jolteon does do great damage into Great Tusk, allows Gardevoir to get that Revenge Kill, but because you don't have Kyurem with you, you don't have that Jolteon, it makes it so it's a 1v3, and Gardevoir really can't win that, especially with Scizor. Saving that Kyurem, maybe Scizor takes down the Kyurem anyway, and it doesn't matter too much, but still, it's maybe a better chance for Kyurem than it is for Gardevoir. So, but moving on into our Inferno Division, Division 6, you know, when I joined this league, I only had 4 divisions, and I was in the 4th one. Now we have 6, then we have, we have 7, my bad. Then we have 2 VGC divisions, and we have a Wi-Fi division, which unfortunately we can't cover because it doesn't have replays. So, this thing has grown like absolute crazy, and it's really cool to see that. But speaking of grown, we'll go into our Inferno Division, and we're going to see 2 matches here, 2 very close matches. Loopy versus Ikta Solork, and Armoody versus Kaneki. Looking at our standings here, that will be the real Rantrums, Kaneki actually did not pick a team name, and actually someone else picked this team name because they were told, like, if I don't pick a team name by X, you can pick my team. So congratulations to Diddy's Disciple for that name. Moving down for our other teams, though, we have the Brazilian Bulbasaurs, and we have the Sidon Valley Crawdons. So our first match here is going to be Loopy the Coke versus Armoody. So that'll be Armoody and Kaneki. And let's look at our rosters real quick. Armoody is rocking that Zygarde 10% signature, along with, I haven't brought up a lot of the other team members, but that Mawile Mega, I gotta bring him up because Mawile Mega is my #1 favorite Pokemon in singles, so it's great to see that there. And then Kaneki, we're gonna see another Frostlass. We're gonna see another Frostlass signature, showing off its prowess as one of more favorite ones. And here we go. Now, I'm going to mention this right now. I see it in the back. We have a Munchlax here for our Armoody. Let's see how this goes. Alright, the immediate setup coming out from the Deoxys defense. And Frostlass is going to take big damage, revealing that it is, in fact, not that... Oh, it's going to go into the fighting. It's going to use a Shadow Ball, 47% into that Mega Mawile. Fortunately, though, it doesn't matter that you transferred out of a super effective attack, because it doesn't matter when your hammer is a Mawile. Now, Mawile is on very low health with that Future Sight plus the Shadow Ball. Defog's going to come out. Can it do more damage? As an Ice Punch, and there goes the Landorus Therian. Second kill for the Mega Mawile. Even at -1 attack and 10%, Mawile is still putting in a ton of work because it is the best Pokemon in singles. And don't at me about that. Now, Deoxys defense comes in back to set up those Stealth Rocks some more. Prevent that more switch-ins coming in from the Baxcalibur. However, that Baxcalibur is then going to use the Dragon Dance, and it's not a Sucker Punch out of the Mawile, so it's going to just go down. Zygarde 10% comes in. It has a Focus Sash to survive that Icicle Crash, but it flinches on the Icicle Crash, and that's really bad for Armoody. The flinch there prevents that anything from happening. Munchlax is going to come in, do nothing, and die. I'll be interested to see what's on that Munchlax. But the Glaive Rush is going to come in. Huge damage coming out of his Baxcalibur right now. And Baxcalibur is just going to take down a defense moment. But it does get that Trick Room set up. The Trick Room allowing for that speed boost from the Dragon Dance to be actually against him. The Poltergeist is going to drop him down to 1 HP. And this is very much a limp. This is very much limping to take care of this Baxcalibur. However, it's basically a 1v3 at this point. However, that one Pokemon left for more than much is that Iron Moth. So we'll see how Iron Moth can do. The Trick Room will be ending this turn, which actually means that Iron Moth will be quite quick on this, especially with a Quark Drive popping up its speed. And Iron Moth's going to do a ton of damage, of course, taking out that Tapu Lele. Moving into the Walking Wake. Walking Wake does not have enough health. With that Dazzling Gleam coming out, it's going to go down to 10%. Hydro Steam comes back into it, but he can live that attack. Dazzling Gleam's going to be enough to take out the Walking Wake. But now Charizard does take 50% because I believe it is Mega Charizard Y, sets up that Sun, but lives on 2% from the Sludge Wave. You can't get much closer than that. It was actually outsped by the Iron Moth with its speed boost, and had Iron Moth had just a little bit more damage, Charizard would have gone down there, and Iron Moth would have completed that counter sweep. However, Charizard lives on 2% and takes it down. Big game there from both sides. I think, honestly, I hate to say it because Munchlax is a heat, Munchlax is absolute heat to bring. But I think if you did not have Munchlax and you instead maybe had Galarian Wheezing, you could have won this one. That being said, you can say all you want because you could be bringing this for a specific reason, and suddenly you get punched in the mouth because unfortunately your Zygarde that was going to counter and take down that Baxcalibur just flinches on the Icicle Crash. Very unfortunate there for Armoody, and that's a big one. I feel like if you're looking at the keys of the game, it's Baxcalibur, and unfortunately for Armoody, the reason Baxcalibur was able to go on such a tear was really right here. This flinch meant almost everything to it, it's actually interesting though, because we are seeing a Glaive Rush, Earthquake, Icicle Crash with the Focus Sash on Baxcalibur. A lot of times I feel like people would bring the Icicle Spear. So it's interesting to see with the Icicle Spear ability and with Icicle Spear plus the plus the loaded dice, it's interesting that Zygarde was set up with that Focus Sash to try to counteract, because really that Icicle Spear would have cut right through the Zygarde. So it's an interesting setup, but definitely look out for that, because I think it would have been even easier for Baxcalibur to take care of it without the flinch if it had that Icicle Spear set up. Regardless, it didn't, so, closer, but still, did not work really well. And if that's your only plan to take down that Baxcalibur, you're in for a rough time. Now moving into our other match, Loopy versus Animepedia. Animepedia, I believe, would be our great player, Ikta Solork. And moving into their rosters real quick, we're looking at the Glastrier, another very popular one for tearing, the Glastrier pick. And on the other side, we're going to see the Delphox. Delphox is actually a great one. Definitely one of the demons of random battles with its high speed and high special attack. But we don't really see it picked a ton in terms of an actual signature mon. So let's see what happens here in this matchup between these two players. We see the Raikou leading off versus Diancie. Diancie has a Stealth Rock, of course, so let's get right into it. Said Diancie actually going to switch out, kind of expecting that Scald to come in. It does not want to get burnt. It looks like probably more of a physical set. Then it goes into the Delphox. On the knockoff, though, it's going to take 2/3 damage and reveal that it's heavy boots, so it does not have any sort of thing there, but it's going to go Terra into the Fairy and going to Side Shock. Raikou's going to switch back in on a Mega Diancie, which sets up the spikes. Back in the Muk to make sure that there's not much in terms of scalding that thing. And Urshifu's going to come out. That is, of course, the Urshifu single strike. And the Focus Punch on the Muk. That is a heat set to try to catch the Urshifu on a sword stance. Unfortunately, it does not work and Muk goes down. And we see the second Fairy Terra of the game as we see Glastrier Terra in response to a Tapu Fini. Now we're going to see Tapu Fini just clearing out the area as you can't really do much into this Corviknight, and the Corviknight's going to switch out into the Iron Bundle. Freeze Dry is coming out almost certainly, and Snope instead it's a substitute, which is a good play. Good play expecting that switch, and the Ice Beam is going to hit the Raikou for 42%. It is Life Orb. That's going to be enough for Raikou to get rid of the substitute, but with that Life Orb going on, now we know that it's very offensive there. Ooh, but the Thunderbolt coming out by Nidoking is going to actually do a ton of damage into the switching in Corviknight, forcing it to switch out again. Glastrier comes in, so he's going to force another switch out into the Tapu Fini, who resists most of what they can do. Even with the critical hits, only going to do 30%. Tapu Fini is in a really good spot here. Really can't do too much damage to this Corviknight. However, unless Corviknight has a Roost, which it doesn't, it's even outsped by Tapu Fini. So Tapu Fini does take down the Corviknight in the end. But now it's going to be an Earth Power that's going to take down the Nidoking on the switch-in, and that's the kill that Loopy needed to get back into this game. Scald's going to come out. It's going to crit, and that's enough to take down Diancie. It's not sure if that was going to take it down regardless, but that's going to take it down. Hydro Pump does not kill the Raikou, so Raikou's Thunderbolt's going to be enough to take down Iron Bundle. And unless we can get a counter sleep going from Loopy, he's going to go down really quickly here. The Iron Defense is going to be set up. So it's going to be an Iron Defense, probably Body Press build on this Scalding Raikou. It's dangerous, though, with that burn possibility, but doesn't get it. Now you have the Chilling Neigh coming up. It's double defense, 1.5 attack. Haze comes out to get rid of those stats. Good choice from that Tapu Fini to use that Haze, bring that Haze in general to prevent these things. Probably also brought for the Blaziken. But the high horsepower is just going to do enough. It's going to get really low. There goes the Glastrier. It's a 4v1. Blaziken, what can it do? The Flare Blitz is going to come out. Unfortunately, Tapu Fini is so low that it's going to just die from that. And there's a speed boost. Here comes this Blaziken. If Aerodactyl can kill it, it won't be able to because of the Protect. Brings the dual Wing Beat, but unfortunately that's now double speed onto the Blaziken, which now can outspeed close combat. It does not kill. But dual Wing Beat misses. Really unfortunate miss there from the Aerodactyl. And now, while it has low defenses, it really does need there needs to be a priority move. Otherwise, this Blaziken's just going to win. Bringing in Urshifu does have those priority moves. It has a Sucker Punch. It does not do enough. Close Combat's going to come out, and that's the game. The Close Combat is barely able to take down that Urshifu, and the counter sweep is complete. 4v1 to 1v0. Blaziken, probably of our MVP of these matches so far, taking down in a complete reverse sweep with that speed boost. And that's what happens when you just... the miss was brutal. The whole turning point of this entire game was this right here. This dual Wing Beat miss, because that Close Combat does not kill. That should have been the win. Should have been a nice 3-0 win. And that's what happens. I mean, that's Pokemon. You're gonna miss that dual wing beat sometimes. You know, that's why some people just want to bring always 100% accurate moves, because every time something can go wrong, Murphy's Law just can come right in. And you can see the response from all the people who are watching it live as it happened. Look at that. And boom, immediately Blaziken takes it down. Good thing to bring up here from Shadow, the wait no EQ. If there was an Earthquake would have probably been the play here, because while dual wing beat does cut through that like Focus Sash, we know Focus Sash isn't on this thing, and yeah, we know that Focus Sash is not on this thing, and on top of that, really just need to get that 100% accurate. Make sure you lock up a win. When you start introducing those less than perfect accuracy moves, that gives all the room for the team to get right back into it, and Blaziken is one of the best at it with those speed boosts. So yeah, going into our Blitz division, we have another couple of matchups. We have two matchups here between jedswarlington and Zombie Kidney 321, and then Naomi and Sidomia. So looking at their team names, we're gonna pull up the Maryland Terrapagos. Oh yeah. Also, we're watching Cyan Yoshi, Fourth Mage, and Essie and Zombie Kidney. Sorry. We had a lot of 2-0 games here, and we're trying to move through all the divisions and not make this take all too long. We've already gone like almost an hour here. We haven't even reached the VGC. Again, we're working on things. This is a trial run for a reason. We're learning how these things are going, and so yeah, this time, unfortunately for Nachi's 1225 and SSJ Silver, and I guess for Naomi and Sidomia, fortunately we're not gonna be able to cover them. And I also realized, because I've been going through this a lot, I realized I did some standings updates for some of them. I'll probably go back after we watch all the matches and just give a quick overlook of the standings, see who's in first, call them out, because, you know, if you're in first, you deserve to be celebrated as being in first. So you're not going to be in this week, you're not going to be on video this week because we're watching a bunch of close matches, but it deserves a shout out for being in first after week 1. So going in, here is Fourth Mage versus Cyan Yoshi, and we're going to see a couple really fun, we're going to see some fun Terra Captains here, with the Cyan Yoshi rocking with that Marowak Alola, and the Fourth Mage rocking with Scrafty. Both of them just fun, slower physical attackers. I love Marowak Alola. I just love Marowaks in general. Marowak is a very fun Pokemon for me, and I just love using it, and I love seeing the Alola Marowak, and also the Scrafty is a very, very big staple of VGC, very popular in VGC, but also in singles, you know, it's less popular, but it does have quite a few great abilities. It's got that Intimidate, it's got Moxie, so I actually like that a lot, especially since it removes that 4x Fairy weakness with the Terrestrialization. So as a Terra Captain, I'm excited to see what Scrafty can do. So let's get right into it. We've got that Masquerain versus the Greninja. Protein Greninja is revealed, and that's a one-shot. I mean, not much better a way to start off for the Cyan Yoshi. Gets the Quiver Dance, though. That's a scary Quiver Dance from that Volcarona. Really one of the most dangerous Pokemon in the game if it can get that Quiver Dance going, especially since it does, yeah, it has that Giga Drain, it has that Psychic. There goes that Tentacruel. And now we're going to see the Mega Lopunny come in with the Fake Out, just doing a bunch of damage with that Toxic building up as well. We just need to get out of there. Greninja's going to come in on the Psychic. It's immune to it because it has not Proteined yet, and that's enough with the Water Shuriken to deal with the Volcarona. Great defusal of the Volcarona sweep by the Cyan Yoshi. Amazing job there. But now he's going to be forced out by the thing, and we see a similar play to what we saw in the other one. We see the forcing out by that threatening freeze dry, which allows you to set up the substitute with that iron bundle. But unfortunately, we have a couple of different hits with the Hydro Pump. Freeze dry is going to come in. That's going to be enough to take it down. All you lose is your substitute. And now with the Fake Out going to come in, do a bunch of damage. Now we're going to see, yep, Hydro Pump's going to come out. It's going to do a lot to Lopunny. Lopunny does not go down now, and it's able to take down Dwayne the Bundle Johnson here, and now it's going to have to get the hell out of there if it wants to stay alive. Mega Venusaur is going to come out, the U-turn's going to hit in, but then we're going to switch into the Marowak Alola, who's going to take an Earth Power. That's a big 61% taken onto that Marowak. However, Marowak's going to tear into the Grass type, and the Flare Blitz come out. Huge damage from that because it's got that Rock Head, and it's probably got the Thick Club doubling its attack. Huge damage is going to be coming out of this Marowak. That Flare Blitz is just going to hit super hard, and there's no downside. Unfortunately, though, not hard enough to cut through the damage from Scrafty. Scrafty is running Shed Skin, it looks like, because the Intimidate, I don't believe, came out. Yeah, Intimidate did not come out. So this is a Shed Skin Scrafty, as we have not seen Moxie or Intimidate. I'm interested to hear why this might be Shed Skin, especially considering it is a Terra Poison type, so it does not get poisoned, so it doesn't shed that poison. The extra sensory is going to take it down, though. And now, with a Psychic type Greninja, it should be in a good spot. That's enough. And there it goes. Greninja is able to take care of it. And that was a very quick matchup. Very quick matchup. A lot of just throwing stuff at the wall, taking down Pokemon left and right. All the Mons really with no regard for their own safety besides switching in and out. And yeah, I think, honestly, looking at this, it's interesting that Scrafty was really not running either Moxie or Intimidate. The Intimidate, I don't think would matter too much because it was already pretty physically bulky. We saw that as it took on that Marowak, and the Marowak did not take any damage did not take any damage from that. I shouldn't say it didn't take any damage. It took 42%, which is quite a bit, but it did not take enough to be really concerning from that Flare Blitz. And then it knocks off the club, so I mean, there's that. However, I feel like if you're going to be a setup type there, you should have actually ran. I would have loved to see a Moxie there, get that Moxie sweep going, and the Shed Skin, I guess it could have shed the Leech Seed, but even then you can just switch out for that. It's a strange setup. It's a strange setup to say the least. However, we also saw really good play by the Cyan Yoshi using that Greninja with the Protean ability and with the lack of Protean ability to take down, to diffuse that bomb known as Volcarona with that Quiver Dance. Diffused that and allowed it to switch in right on the Psychic, not take any damage. And then with the Protean later, getting that Psychic typing, which allowed it to take down the Terra Poison Scrafty and allowed it to take down the Mega Venusaur at the end. So I think that pivot, the good pivoting around that Volcarona and the good use of that Greninja and the good setup of that Greninja with the Ice Beam, Water Shuriken, and Extra Sensory is what allowed Cyan Yoshi to take down the 4th Mage here in this matchup. So moving into the other matchup, we got Essie versus Zombie Kidney 3-1, and we're seeing Dash Bun as our signature Mon, which is a cool one. It's a low tier, we don't see a ton, but with that, with the well-baked body ability, it's really good with that fire immunity. Plus, you also get that, you get the amount of points. Like, look at this team real quick, just because I have noticed this. Dash Bun being 2 points allows you to spend extra points, allowing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different points, 6 different Pokemon above that 10-point threshold, and that's a really good benefit that just having a low tier signature affords you. On top of that, having a low tier signature is just fun games, because then you get to have that fun underdog story coming out. On the other hand, though, we have Essie. We have Essie, who is our let's see here, which would be our jedswarlington, and that would be your Monterey Suicunes, and they are rocking the Electivire. Interesting. We don't see Electivire too much. Electivire seems to not be as good as a lot of people are hoping sometimes. So we don't see a lot of Terra Captain Electivires, but in this case, it'll be really interesting to see what a signature can do over this season. A lot of really cool signatures coming out, especially in these lower tiers. So let's get right into it. We have the lead Crobat versus Necrozma, and lead Crobat's going to go with that Toxic, but Necrozma's going to Automatize. Now, Necrozma is actually in a really dangerous spot. I had to face one of these in the off-season, and Necrozma actually is a lot more damage than many people would think. Obviously, easily enough to take care of that Crobat there, but now Heat Wave's going to do 88%. This is a lot of damage coming out of this Necrozma immediately, and yes, it can't do it forever because it has that Toxic, but look at that damage coming out. Photon Geyser is going to come out into a bulky Vaporeon. It still does nearly half. Unfortunately, though, Toxic's going to take down that Necrozma, so it can't do a lot of damage for long. Gyarados coming in, though. This is a Mega Gyarados, and we did not see any of the Intimidate shenanigans, so that means that it is a Moxie Mega Gyarados. And now we're going to go into that Landorus here, and that one has Intimidate, so it's not going to be Intimidate chain, but Toxic's going to come right back out into that Landorus. Can Landorus have anything take care of this Miltank quick? Nope, they're just going to exchange rocks. Moving in, though, Vaporeon's going to come right back out. It's shown that Roar, so you can't really set up on it, but with Earthquake there, it's going to kind of force Vaporeon into some sort of healing, which allows him to switch back out into the dash bun, which is going to take a Scald. It's only going to take 26% though, and unfortunately I think it would have been a lot better to take care of this Vaporeon, because now Vaporeon's going to be a bit of a nuisance, as it's going to get a crit on that Scald. That is brutal. Body press is going to be not enough with the leftovers. It would have been really nice if this Vaporeon was dead. Unfortunately, instead, dash bun is dead. And now Vaporeon, you can't set up on it. You're going to use the Earthquake, and it's going to give you the Moxie boost, which is nice, but now you can't use your thing. And now Electivire is going to come in. Electivire, and without that speed boost, I believe Electivire is going to outspeed. It's going to hit with the Wild Charge, but that's where we're talking about with a lot of these Pokemon. With a lot of this, Electivire just does not do quite enough. Wild Charge only being 90 power barely allows Gyarados to survive, and now Scizor has to revenge kill. Instead of getting that clean kill with Electivire, you lose your signature Mon. Now we have a 3v3 Flamethrower coming out from the Blacephalon. Blacephalon would love to get a Beast Boost here, and I think Blacephalon is hunting for that Shaman only on 18%. If it can get a hold of that Shaman and kill it, then it's going to get that Beast Boost. It's going to be a special attack boost, and instead they're going to actually get rid of it here, which is actually kind of a smart play if you think about it, to get this Blacephalon in. It's going to take another 25%, but it's not going to be able to get that Beast Boost, and Miltank is going to be pretty good at taking it down. Blacephalon's going to drop the Mind Blow, kill itself to avoid the Toxic. Only going to do about 30% to that Miltank. And now Bolton's going to come in, but Miltank, oh, Bolton actually able to take it down with Thunderfang. I wasn't sure if Miltank was actually going to be able to survive that given its bulk, but Thunderfang's just going to come in with a ton of damage, and the flinch as well. Bullet Punch is not enough to kill Bolton, and so long as Thunderfang doesn't miss, which it doesn't, that flinch is enough for Bolton to just win that game. So overall, another quick game, only 22 turns, but I think we're seeing a couple different things here. One, I would love to see what the Blacephalon's like EVs are for this like special attack, because it seems like Blacephalon was not doing a ton of damage. I guess it could have been a very specially bulky Miltank, but just in general, Miltank can be pretty bulky. It's unfortunate, though, because I really do think the turning point in this game was Landorus switching out into that Dash Bun on the 30% health Vaporeon. Landorus, it was in Earthquake range. If Landorus could have used Earthquake onto that Vaporeon and take it down, they could have had Dash Bun. I guess I should say turning point. They still won. It's a good point. They still won, but I think that could have been a way for them to win with probably a 4-0 instead of 2-0. On the other hand, Vaporeon going for that Scald, I think it would have also been much safer to switch out. And then if you swapped out, then maybe you could have swapped into the Scizor and actually had a much even better matchup against that Dash Bun. Didn't have to survive from barely anything. So, yeah, a couple things there. But also, it was good bring by that Vaporeon to not let the Gyarados set up on it, because Vaporeon can't really do much into it besides roar it out, and a sweeping Gyarados is a very dangerous thing. So there's some good plays by Essie here in this play. Good plays, but again, the Electivire just doesn't quite do as much as you were hoping sometimes, and besides that, Necrozma was not respected enough by Crobat, and Vaporeon just unfortunately not able to do quite enough to keep it around, because I think that was the story. A lot of it was like this Electivire, and a lot of times it feels like it just does 90%, but you need that 100%. So now, I guess we should move into our VGC divisions. First, we'll start with the Nightmare division. And this one we're going to watch is Squeaks versus Mewizard. This was our only game in here to go to 3 games, so we'll be watching all 3. I believe it would be, the Inventors versus the Craighead County Crawdons. I love that name. But, yeah, looking at our rosters, in this case, since it is VGC, instead of having signature low tier mons, we have signature restricted mons. And another thing you'll see as well is that these restricted mons are not able to Terra. Our signatures are actually our only Pokemon that cannot Terra, so it'll be all the others can Terra. We will have a Terra preview that we will show off at the start of our looking over to the battle. And in this situation, Mewizard over here has that Zamazenta Crown, which was actually, I believe if we look at our draft, Zamazenta Crown was the first pick actually in both of the drafts, I believe. In both this one and in the Clangorous division. We can double check when we get there, but yes, it's interesting. In this case, it's also interesting because we have Zamazenta Crown versus Zamazenta in the first matchup. It is Shield versus Shield, And here we go. We see it right out here. Zamazenta crowned, obviously, with the higher stats. However, it does get that steel typing, so maybe Zamazenta can use that to its advantage. Regardless, it looks pretty bad for Squeaks coming out of the gate with that, with what feels like an upgrade on the other side being the opposing restricted mon. So, getting into it, we have some really strong matchups. But, ooh, look at that. A Mirror Herb coming out on the Zamazenta, taking advantage of not actually having to have having an item, seeing as it doesn't have to do it, which is really interesting. Ways that you can buff the mirror matchup when you seem to have the worst mon. That Mirror Herb is actually a big way to do that. And look at that, with the combination of that, of the body press plus the heat wave, takes it down. And now Roaring Moon, though it does have the double coaching on it, is burnt, so it's not going to do as much damage. The acrobatics does allow, the extra does not do enough to the Volcarona. Tail Glow comes out from the Manaphy. However, the body press is going to hit and do 75%. And Volcarona is in a very good spot here if it can get one more turn off. Acrobatics can come in. There goes the Volcarona. It cannot get another turn off. The Alluring Burst is going to hit for a ton of damage. Now instead, it's actually a really good spot for Mewizard with these two really strong mons, really boosted up. Even the Roaring Moon, who is burnt, has more speed and more defense, and it's just been able to go through in acrobatics. We will see the Zamazenta come back out. It is Zamazenta and Chien-Pao that cannot switch out. The Ice Spinner comes in, but the poison typing on the Roaring Moon does survive both of them, and Tailwind comes right back out, and so that counter Tailwind allows this Roaring Moon to outspeed, I believe. Yes, it does, and the acrobatics is going to be enough to take down the Zamazenta, and it's Chien-Pao versus the world. Roaring Moon's going to go down to the burn, but doesn't matter. It's done enough. Clefable is able to follow me, take 53% from that Ice Spinner, but it doesn't matter. Alluring Voice is going to hit for a big damage, and at this point, there's not enough for Chien-Pao to do anything. The one Tailwind left, and that is your first round for coming down and winning for Mewizard. But we saw a lot of interesting stuff, and before we go into it, we're going to look at a couple things. First of all, our Terras, obviously they cannot Terra their opponents. This is why you see this person, you see Mewizard put down Stellar. That shows that they can't Terra, because you see that Terra Stellar, and you're like, oh right, can't use that, because you usually don't use Terra Stellar. On the other hand, fight it because you just didn't touch it. But interesting, we saw that Terra Poison come out from the Roaring Moon, which actually was a huge part of that game because it allowed Roaring Moon to survive both attacks, and really that was the game clincher in Game 1. In the future, we'll see. If the next Terras that we might see that could be really big, maybe that Terra Ground could take more effect. It didn't do a ton in this game for the Volcarona, but also the Terra Ghost could be really nice to maybe survive that Alluring Voice for the Chien-Pao. The Dragon on the Volbeat is interesting. I know maybe they're not planning on terroring, but I'd be interested to see what that is about. Maybe it's about dodging that Rotom Heats damage. The Grass-type Terra makes a lot of sense for the thing. It's their one weakness, so you pull that out. And so, yeah, we'll see a lot from it in Game 2 here. Game 2, we're seeing a slight change up here. It's going to be both Zamazentas back out there again. So we're going to start with double defense on this Zamazenta, not the crowned one. And Roaring Moon coming out because why would you change up a plan that's already working? But Volbeat's going to come out in a change for Squeaks here. Let's see how this goes. Alright, the Mirror Herb sets up the pros into speed. Poison Terra immediately gets taunted, though. Can't use Tailwind. The body press only going to do 35%, but the coaching's going to come out. It's the same sort of setup here out of Mewizard, but the taunts are going to come out from this Volbeat, preventing more coaching shenanigans, preventing the Tailwind. Unfortunately, though, it is just acrobatics coming out once again from the Roaring Moon. They have to take it down, and they just do not have a ton of damage. There is the taunt ending, so he's able to protect, but he sets up the Tailwind on that one. That's a big move for the Zamazenta, but unfortunately Zamazenta is not able to take down Manaphy, and then it goes down. So now we see two less aggressive mons here in the Gastrodon and the Volbeat. Muddy Water is going to come out. It's going to take down Roaring Moon. Taunted Manaphy cannot use any boost, but it still is threatening in itself. U-Turn's going to come out from it to get in the final Pokemon, which is that Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao actually very dangerous to bring it out here, but the body press is actually going to go into the Gastrodon instead. So it's going to Terra Ghost here. Makes sense. There's not really much else to do. Taunt comes in for the Clefable. Sacred Sword is unfortunately coming in because the Follow Me was just faster. Body press is going to come in, but it's immune because of that Ghost Terra. The Ghost Terra coming in big. Taunt and Encore comes in. The Sacred Sword going to do big damage into that Zamazenta. Crunch is going to hit for 50%, but it's not quite Body Press because it doesn't have that same type of attack bonus. It's going to force the switch out of the Clefable. The taunt comes out. Sacred Sword's enough to take down Zamazenta. Now it's a 2v2. Clefable and Manaphy versus Chien-Pao and Volbeat. Follow Me going to come out, but the taunt is going to come into that Follow Me. Scald's going to go into the Chien-Pao, but Chien-Pao has protected. So the Encore comes into Clefable to lock it up. Throat Chop kills the Manaphy, and now Clefable is forced into a taunt Encore loop, so it means it cannot do any damage. The Rocky Helmet's going to do big damage, but struggles enough to take down that Clefable. So now moving into game 3, we see what has happened here so far. It was good combat, and Volbeat was actually the MVP of this match, as just like how Roaring Moon was the MVP of last match. We see Volbeat actually, instead of doing a ton of damage, Volbeat just spamming the taunt and encores, locking up the Clefable, locking up the initial strategy of that coaching into the Roaring Moon. We see a lot of interesting stuff with people setting up different teams in this VGC draft. In fact, if we do, we might in the future go in on some of these more interesting strategies as they show up more in these draft games. In fact, in my draft game, which we will not be showing because it wasn't one of the most close ones, but in my draft game we saw a really interesting set that I'd like to call out, which was a combination of Weakness Policy and Co-Star, and it was a situation in which a Thwacky would U-turn into a Weakness Policy mon that was weak to U-turn, and then bring in Flamigo to get that to set off the Weakness Policy and then come in for an immediate Co-Star boost to get double attack and double special attack on both of the opposing mons. It was a really cool set, and I would highly recommend, if you can, to go find that. It's not going to be in this video. It's not going to be in this stream, but, and again, that one was another one. We were having another Zamazenta Crown, and that one, Zamazenta Crown, was a very popular pick. Zamazenta in general went everywhere. But now to get into our third matchup, we'll see how, now that we've seen how both sides intend to win, we will see what happens. We're interesting here. We see the Clefable immediately. We see Clefable Roaring Moon against the Chien-Pao and Volcarona. Very aggressive from Squeaks after winning due to drawing it out and only choosing to strike at the end. Meanwhile, over here we see a much different setup. Though the Roaring Moon is still out there, I'm surprised we see Clefable given how much it got locked up by that Volbeat. But going into this battle, we see the Photosynthesis boost activate. Here comes the initial protect from the Chien-Pao. Follow Me is going to come out. Acrobatics goes right into that Chien-Pao, but the Heat Wave is going to come out. It's going to do 25%, but it misses the Roaring Moon, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because you just want that burn to be there. And the Ice Spinner is also going to miss. The Moonblast is going to come in, only does 12% because of that Rage Power. And now we see that it's a pretty common setup here where, unfortunately, yeah, that's not going to work because Acrobatics is going to be super effective into that Volcarona. It does not Terra. We have not seen any Terras yet, so despite very powerful, very powerful moves on the field that are super effective towards them. However, Clefable has been able to dictate it with Follow Me a lot better. So now we're down to a 3v3, but Roaring Moon is still on the field. The MVP for Mewizard is going to set up that Tailwind. Alluring Voice is going to do a lot of damage into the Zamazenta. The Body Press comes in a turn too late, and I think this is just a rout at this point. It does, but Volbeat with the Prankster Encore does lock up the Roaring Moon. So now Roaring Moon can't really do anything but just spam Tailwind, which does nothing. Manaphy able to take down the opposing Zamazenta. So these are the last two. And we're going to see the Terra from the Chien-Pao to avoid the Body Press from Zamazenta. But now with the Throat Chop, it can't use Alluring Voice. The Crunch comes in, does nothing. Encore goes into the Manaphy, so it could not use any move that turn. Taunt goes into the Roaring Moon, so now it cannot use that Tailwind. However, it still has very powerful attacks. It's going to bring Chien-Pao down to 2%. It's not going to kill the Zamazenta, and that'll be about it. With U-turn not able to take down the Zamazenta, there goes Chien-Pao, and unfortunately, one U-turn boy cannot win this game. And so that's how it goes. It was a really cool. I think this is cool when we see these VGC. We see the ability to not just scout and learn like we do in a lot of our singles matches, but in VGC you get to learn and then try again. And that's why some of these closed matches are so interesting, because we see the initial strategy come out from Mewizard. We see this coaching strategy, and this coaching strategy works really well in that first turn and ends up taking down Squeaks. But Squeaks comes back and brings in that Volbeat to then get that coaching strategy out of the way, and then lock up Clefable later. So then now both of them have to decide, are they going to bring an original strat, or are they going to bring a new strat? And the new strat comes out from Mewizard, which is able to take it down. And unfortunately for Squeaks, they weren't able to take it down enough. Very importantly, a lot of things. I feel like Volcarona would have been a better Terra in that situation, just because the big deal with this one was it was a Rage Powder and Follow Me battle at the beginning of this thing when it had a chance to go either way. And the big thing was that the Roaring Moon was able to use Acrobatics with impunity, as it was super effective on the Rage Powder spammer. So they knew that they could either get damage onto that Chien Pao, or they could get a quick KO on that Volcarona, since it had not Terra'd. Had you Terra'd, it may have been a more interesting matchup in terms of that at the end. But yeah, now let's move into our final division. This is my division. This is our one and only Clangorous division, and we actually have a couple different matchups here that we could have chose from, but I chose this one here, HowDz versus Plesiolord. It seemed to be the closest one. So HowDz is the BBL Baneri, and House of Hades is that Plesiolord. And let's look at their rosters real quick. HowDz is rocking the Dialga, which is interesting. The Steel Dragon type will be quite something to watch. I feel like I don't see a ton of Dialga, but I believe Dialga is pretty damn popular in many facets of VGC. We've seen it in some different tournaments and stuff. It's hard to tell because right now the current form of VGC is too restricted, and that's not quite as good from Dialga from what I've seen, though I could just be missing something because, again, I've been looking into it, but I have not been super well versed on VGC. That's why I'm kind of trying something new here. On the other hand, opposing HowDz is going to be that Plesiolord set, and he is going to be running Groudon. So interesting here. This was something that I saw that was kind of interesting, which was that in this division, and I'm just going to bring this up because I know a bit more about this division. I'm going to spend a little longer on talking about it. In this division, weather was an interesting topic because we saw this Groudon, and we saw Groudon rock with the Raging Bolt and the Volcanion, but these weren't picked up until a little later, and besides that, there's not really any weather going on with the Groudon, which is interesting. Volcanion makes sense, but the rest of it, there's not a big weather focus, even though they have one of the premier weather setters. On the other hand, we see the actual Sun team is here on orange with the Solgaleo, which has now Smeargle, Gouging Fire, Walking Awake, Turkle, which is a really strong Sun core, also with the Venusaur and Typhlosion. So, yeah, and then on top of that, we also see a Sun team here from the Lunala team. So so you have the Sun team with Groudon, which doesn't really have a Sun team, but then you have both Sun and Moon legendaries rocking Sun teams. So it's really interesting to see how that gone, especially considering I wonder if Plesiolord maybe wanted a Sun team, but it didn't really look like it. Regardless, here we go into this first matchup. We see Oranguru and the Ursaluna. Oranguru with that Trick Room ability, which will probably be what we see here, given the fact that Ursaluna is so slow, and because Jumpluff can set that Tailwind. So here we go. You see the Protect come in. Sleep Powder, though, immediately lands into the Oranguru, who was definitely probably trying to set up that Trick Room. Sleep Powder is a big deal, and now we're going to see really what we're looking at here. Groudon now with the Precipice Blades and also Earthquake, which is interesting, considering that it's probably because of not every Pokemon being Flying type, but it's interesting to go for Precipice Blades with that miss opportunity, even though, yeah, there's the Earthquake. It's just going to finish off that Oranguru, and we see the burned Ursaluna able to do a lot of damage, but unfortunately does not have that speed. On the other end, here we have the Scraggy with the Intimidate. It's going to get the Fake Out into the Jumpluff. However, here's going to be Precipice Blades. It's going to break the Sash on the Scraggy, but if Facade comes in, there goes Groudon. So now it's a 3v3, but honestly, Plesio is in a lot better spot here at the beginning. Jumpluff's going to U-turn, take out the Scraggy, so now it's a 3v2. And let's see what the final Pokemon is. Woodhammer is going to come into the Ursaluna. Never mind, it is a 3v1. Mimikyu reveals the Life Orb, and now it's Dialga versus the world. Jumpluff comes in. Play Rough going to come in. Not only does 31%, the last turn of Tailwind. Earth Power, though, is not going to do anything. With the threat of Raging Bolt, he goes for the Earth Power, and unfortunately, it's not enough. The Sleep Powder is going to come in Dialga, and it is dead in the water. That is a quick end to this one, because unfortunately for HowDz, yeah, there's nothing he can really do. He's just sitting there on the mercy of Sleep Turns, and he's already down 3-1, so at this point, he does not have the health. Goes into the Raging Bolt. Does not matter. Woodhammer is going to finish it off. That's a quick 3-0. And we see the Terra from... We saw the Terra there at the end from the jump bluff, but it really didn't do too much in this. If we look at these Terras again, Dark type on Scraggy, probably Scraggy doesn't really Terra too much. The Electric type here, we see this. Interestingly, this might be a slight people not remembering exactly what's going on, but Groudon should not be able to Terra. Neither can Dialga, though they both rocked in with their own interesting Terra types, even though they can't use them. So I think that's probably just, you know, thinking about like, oh yeah, I need to add the Terra type for them, not thinking about the fact that, yeah, these two can't Terra anyway. So hopefully it doesn't matter in this battle. Hopefully they just did it for funsies. But it is funny to see them both do that sort of thing in here. Moving on to Battle 2, though, now we see interesting a role reversal where instead of Plesio leading with their with a support and they're restricted, we instead see HowDz lead with a support and restricted versus a Volcanion and a Mimikyu. The initial fake out and the intimidate. The intimidate actually does not matter because it is 4 times super effective onto the Scraggy, but the flinch and a Trick Room comes up from the Dialga. It is a Trick Room team, and it's a Trick Room Endeavor team with the Scraggy. Endeavor coming out on the Scraggy, sorry, and the Shuka Berry revealed on the Dialga. But Mimikyu has a counter Trick Room, which is huge, and that gets rid of the Scraggy there. And Volcanion's basically dead in the water on 1 HP, but the counter Trick Room is a big deal here, and Ursaluna is going to come on in. Woodhammer is going to do about 40%, but unfortunately with that intimidated Mimikyu, it's just not as much as you were hoping. The Earth Power is going to come in, leave Dialga on 1, and Ursaluna is not going to kill Dialga, who does have Telepathy, a doubles only ability, which allows it to set Trick Room on that 1 HP. And now Groudon and Jumpluff are going to come in, but unfortunately it's not on their terms. It is instead on Ursaluna's turn, who can now spam Facade and Draco Meteor, both going into the Protect, however. So Groudon's going to help. Unfortunately, the miss comes out from the Trick from the Sleep Powder. I mean, that's what's just going to happen when you use a 75 base power move. Not 70 base power, 75 accurate move. And now the U-turn's going to come out and just kill the Dialga. Maybe that was just a better plan from the start. But now we see the Tauros. Now, with this, it's just really not much Jumpluff can do. Jumpluff has revealed the Trick Route. Jumpluff has already revealed Tailwind in the previous matchup, so it's only attacking moves. U-turn. U-turn will do nothing into either of these. The Terra Ghost is just going to come out just for fun. Facade's going to go just to take... It's going to take it because of that Steel typing, but doesn't matter. Wave Crash is going to come in and finish it off. And we're going on to Game 3. And we see in this one, it's... Yeah, you see it himself. He says he blew it. And I agree, the Sleep Powder was a huge miss. And when you have the option to just kill the Dialga instead of sleeping it, that should have been your choice. I get that it's a much more powerful position if you can get one sleeping and not doing anything, but with 75% accuracy, you're going to miss way too often. And on top of that, you're just not getting too much of a benefit when you could also just kill the Dialga, remove one of those big damage dealers. So now we have to go into Game 3, when Plesio maybe could have locked it up instead. So going into Game 3, we see the Scraggy come back out, and we see the Groudon come back out, but the Groudon and Ursaluna are the same as the first one, and now we see Raging Bolt in the sun right away for the first time. Let's see how this goes. Initial Intimidate comes out from the Scraggy, which has actually been pretty damn valuable in this game. However, the Jumpluff is going to come in immediately, but Coaching revealed on the Scraggy, Coaching into the Ursaluna. Now Ursaluna's even more powerful. Precipice Blade is going to miss the Scraggy, which leaves its Focus Sash intact. Facade comes out and immediately kills the Groudon. Endeavor comes out, which only does 13% because he was expecting to go down to his Focus Sash, but the miss on the Precipice Blades is actually huge, and now Ursaluna is in a huge spot, and the Sleep Powder misses as well. Brutal, and the Draco Meteor. Plesio in a horrible spot, just absolutely getting torched by the Poke Gods. Oh my goodness. That is brutal. And another Sleep Powder miss. This was not your game to win. I am sorry, Plesio. That is so unfortunate. Ursaluna uses the Earthquake, gets the skies removed. It's not going to do anything else. It honestly does more damage to Scraggy, but he made sure to do that because Scraggy now gets the Endeavor off. The U-turn's going to kill Scraggy. The Wood Hammer's going to hit. It does not kill the Ursaluna, though, and that's going to be it for Mimikyu. And it's going to be it for Jumpluff. He's not going to let this be gotten rid of by some sort of sleep garbage. Instead, Mimikyu's going to get intimidated. There's nothing left for Mimikyu to do at this point. It's smart to use that Protect. That Protect actually saves the differential a little bit because that burn is going to take down the Ursaluna. But the game is over. Dialga and Tauros just able to wail on this Mimikyu. Terrifiers just to get it over with on the first one. Man. Wow, what a rough end to that. This game is one of those where Pokemon's gonna Pokemon, and these are the games that, these are the games that not define people's careers, but really, these show up as just, man, you had everything, you planned it all out, you had this Game 3 matchup, it all comes down to this, and then your Pokemon just decide not to hit anything. So, yeah, that's rough. That's just one of those rough things. But seeing through this game, it's a close game, and I definitely bet that Plesio is going to bounce back from this. They were a good player. They unfortunately they had one bad mistake in not the first game, in the second game, which made them go to Game 3. And when they went to Game 3, unfortunately, the gods were against them, even though they won the first game. That second game losing forced that third game, and in Pokemon, anything can happen. So yeah, that's brutal. It's probably one of the most brutal ways I can see to end all of these games. So before we end off this stream, I'd just like to go through all the different divisions and just go through a quick thing because I haven't really talked about the standings. In our standings here, we're looking at, yes, Camel Convention is of course leading our top division, Genesis. Xer Xatu, he's leading there at a +5, and you know what, since it's the first week, we'll also talk about their signature a little bit. We're going to look at, let's see here, with Camel Convention with that Sigilif, even though he is the Xatu team, he's running Sigilif as the Unova off-brand Xatu. And then in second and third we have Karakaza with the Grounded Gribbles and the extremely racist Honchcrows for Friedel for Wii U, and those two have and those two are Karakaza. Karakaza is with the Decidueye, which is a fun signature, and then for Friedel it is the Bellybolt, which is a fun one. Bellybolt does not have a ton of moves, but it is a fun one. That electric type, the bulkiness, really fun. Moving into the Moonsault division, we have we're going to go top 4. I think we mentioned these: London Lucario, Aussie Kingdras, Wellington Ho-Oh, and Lion City Leech Life. A lot of great drafters in here. Its Hydra is rocking with your Absol, actually, which is a really fun pick. Absol, very underused Pokemon, both in draft and just in games, just because not very bulky and just does not do the damage to compensate it with. But it's great to see at the top of there. Great to see him at the top of there. I'm hopefully to see more great performances out of the Absol team. Aussie Kingdra, Riptide, another very dangerous, very good drafter, and they're rocking with the Rhydon. This is where if I had a co-anchor, they might make a joke about this, but not right now. Rhydon looking another 2-pointer. It's cool to see this. The 2-pointers are at the top of this division. So that's to tell you right now, you do not need to pick the highest point signatures to have a good game. You just need to draft well around them, and you need to draft so that they can play it well. And with the Rhydon, also Kingdra is up there at +4 differential with 1-0. It doesn't matter too much the standings, but cool to see. And then Wellington Ho-Oh was a Starving Pig, now another classic member of PWC with the Wellington Ho-Oh. And also with our number 4 here, Lion City Leech Life of Shadow. Again, two very, very big veterans of this league, and we saw Scrafty here out of a Starving Pig. We already talked about Scrafty. Scrafty's really good. We saw Scrafty in one of our matchups, not with Starving Pig, of course, but with a different team. And Scrafty is a great one with that 4x weakness, being able to remove that bumps up its value a bunch with that Terra ability. And then we see the Inteleon here from Shadow, which is cool. I mean, Inteleon is just one of those more underappreciated Pokemon, given that it's from Gen 8, and I feel like for a lot of people, they were picking Cinderace, or they're picking Rillaboom. Inteleon was like the third starter of that trio, so it's cool to see Inteleon get to shine a little bit. Moving into Division 3, we're going to look here at our top 3 again, and actually, it's a very, very close division here, because we have Fire Crown Dallas, we have the New York Conks, we have the Plasma Power Lines, Margaritaville Marowak, and Dragon Leaf Game. Dragon Leaf Game, Margaritaville, and Plasma Power Lines are all tied for that third position right now. Though I will say Plasma Power Lines will be dropping down because we can see on the Week 3 matchup they did actually take a loss there. But regardless, I actually had the pleasure of facing off against Dragonleaf Gang back when I was in Division 4, back in my first couple matches. They were actually, I believe, newer with me. They may have even joined in the same season I did. Very good battler. They deserve their spot up here in Division 3, and they deserve to be doing well up here. So going in, also with Greg Silo. Greg Silo was another one, New York Comics. Another one that I believe I have battled and I believe had moved up the division, was in my division and moved up before me after taking on a big win. So looking at their different mons, we're going to check quick. So Sherry at the top of the division with that Scrafty. Scrafty, it looks like, is going to be a very popular and very good Terra captain in this one. It's always interesting to see which ones rise to the top, and sometimes it's Pokemon like Tyrantrum, but this time sometimes it's Pokemon like Tyrantrum. Back when we had larger cap on the Terra captains, it was Yanmega and stuff like that. But looks like this season it seems to be that Scrafty is a very popular one. A lot of the top performers and just in general, a lot of the winning are winning with Scrafty, so that's cool to see. Then Greg Silo there in the second spot has that Arboliva pick. That's cool. We haven't seen a ton of Arboliva, but with the ability to then set up Grassy Terrain. Actually, we have a couple Grassy Terrain users on this team with the Arboliva and with the Tapu Bulu, but also Arboliva has the Harvest ability, so allows it to be bulky with Harvest, allows it to be basically unkillable unless you have the right moves to take care of it. So that's a cool thing to see out of Arboliva, especially with that Terra making it even more unkillable. Finally, for Max 101, Leezy Peasy, and Banny, let's go over theirs real quick. Max 101 with the Tauros pick, Cantonian Tauros, that's cool to see. Cantonian Tauros is often overshadowed now by Paldean Tauros, but is one of the better, if not the best, pure damage normal types to be a Terra captain. It just can really rack up the damage. It's very powerful. For a lot of people, don't think of the Kanto Pokemon as very powerful, but Tauros, very good. Love that Pokemon, and it's cool to see Max doing well with it. And this is actually a really fun one. Leezy Peasy rocking with the Terra Captain signature Ditto. That's really cool. We'll have to get a match in. We'll have to get a match that we watch with Leezy Peasy soon, because Ditto, that is awesome. I love that as a Terra. It's just, when you don't have the ability to really choose your moves because you're choosing in countering the other Pokemon, that makes it really hard to choose what type you want. So it's really hard to build with, and it really requires a lot of skill to properly use Ditto as your Terra captain. So I will definitely want to see some games with Leezy Peasy. And also, on top of that, Ditto is one of the best scout mons in the game, because then you get to see exactly what moves the opponent has whenever you switch it in. So that's really cool to see. Then finally, Banny 2009, he's rocking with that Articuno Galar. Articuno, I know Articuno, Cantonian Articuno is very good Pokemon for the Terra Captain. So I have not seen a ton out of Galarian Articuno, but I'm sure that it's another really good mon with its high-base stats, and it being that Psychic Flying, being able to switch types into something that can resist Dark, resist that Rock type, could be really useful for that Articuno. So that's cool to see. Moving into Division 4, the Twinkle Division. Again, we have our top, I guess we'll go with top 4 here. We have actually leading, this is one of my friends, Phantom. Shout out to him in the Madison Monsters. I brought him into this league only a couple seasons ago, and they were looking at possibly doing VGC, ended up showing up in singles, and had one hell of a first week, going with a 5-0 win. So they're at the top of their standings, rocking with their Glastrier. Last time they had rocked with the Cantonian Articuno. This time they decided to switch it up and use a different one, a different ice type with that Glastrier, along with the Mew Kartana. And if anyone knows Kartana, this is Phantom's bread and butter. Watch out for this thing. He got it as kill leader last time. So for everyone, you will get paper cut, and you will not be able to decide otherwise. Otherwise, we have our 3 others here. We have Cinderace 26, who they actually ran a team draft league called the Dunsparce Draft League. So shout out to that. I was in that for the first time. It was interesting, and it was a cool, different take on draft. But then also Swagachu and Stormshide, all of them in the St. Paul Spirit Breakers, Honest Mid Mean Shows, shout out to Mean Show, very fun Pokemon, and Seattle Shuckles, all of them rocking their 4-0 wins. And looking at theirs, we have from Cinderace, you got the Lapras pick, very fun pick. A lot of people love the Terra Lapras. Lapras just fun Pokemon to use, and now that you can use it in a sense where it can actually do something, a lot of people love that. Then going into Stormtide, got that Hisuian Decidueye, which is cool to see. The Hisuian Decidueye is going to be a fun one. With the ability, and this one actually is another one of those very making sense sort of Terras, because when you have those quad weaknesses, that lowers your value quite a bit, and so then getting that Terra ability allows you to actually get a lot of value per point you're spending on that Decidueye. And then finally, our final one was Swagachu with that Inteleon. Cool to see a second Inteleon user doing very well. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see who the best Inteleon player is in these divisions. Moving on to Division 5, we have our Doom Division, and up here we've got two people who have 6-0 wins. Got that first couple weeks of really strong things, and actually two 6-0 wins against some very strong players. Against the River City Rillaboom with Talon Anderson, who I've faced off against in leagues before, very strong player, and also against the Oslo Rest with Backpack Boy. Backpack Boy, I actually played in the championship back in the Origin Division a couple seasons ago, and yeah, so I have a lot of respect for those two battlers. So the fact that they both went down 6-0, that's a brutal first week for them. But also it brings up these two, Hot Rod Toaster and Timmy, two more newcomers. Those two are very, very, that got to be a bit of a statement win on here in the first week. If anything's been statement wins, those two are the statement wins. And then after we have Wolfpack for Life, another good battler I faced off against with them in the Origin Division as well. Good for them being there in tied for third with the Norman Pelipers. So going into their thing, let's see how did they take down these two big battlers. We had the, where was it? What was it? Sorry. Hot Rod Toaster and Timmy. So Timmy was rocking with that Glastrier. We see another good Glastrier user. And then Hot Rod Toaster right next there with the Fortress pick. Interesting. Another Fortress pick with another 4x weakness that can be mitigated. So that's cool to see. And finally, and just to see these two doing so well, I mean, you got to think that these guys are going to have a chance at pushing for that championship. And I don't always say that you can't really say that with many teams on that first week, because just in general, like, first week's always kind of weird, and with a sweep, you don't know exactly how that sweep happens. Sometimes it just could be like every now and then you take down a team really quick because they just let a setup mon get a little out of control or something. But I will say for these two, they just took down two more experienced players from these draft leagues, and it's great to see that. Well, not great to see it, but like, it's cool to see new players coming in and asserting themselves, making a statement win just to start off the year, and I'm very excited to see what happens for these guys. We'll have to get a game in with these two. And then finally as well, TBL and Wolfpack for Life. Wolfpack for Life rocking that Lapras, another Lapras user. You'll see some trends here as we go along. Lapras is now another really common one. And we'll even see over here, just pointing it out, Scrafty is over here with HG Attila. But yeah, so you'll see those Scrafty and Lapras being common picks. But also TVL picking in that Weezing in the 6th spot, which is really cool to see. We've seen a couple Weezing. We saw Weezing in one of our matches today. Moving on to the Inferno Division, we're looking at top 3 being all +4 wins with Poison Healing, Blub, and Jake W, the London Vespiquins, the New York Nosepass, and the Dicey Eepers. And so going into theirs, Espeon with the Poison Healing, that's a cool one. Espeon is, we've seen that one in one of these battles in a different division. Espeon is one of those, like, it's psychic spam. It can turn into a fairy pretty easily and still have a lot of moves. It's got the magic bounce. It's a cool one to use. So it's one of those very common ones for people to pick up, especially when they're newer to this team. Another one, though, look at this. Scrafty again. Yes, Scrafty is a very popular Pokemon this season. Very popular to be people's aces, be people's signatures. So that's another cool one to see. Then Jake W, we're looking at the Virizion. Another one where we're seeing that 4x weakness being shown as your Terra Captain, as you can then get a lot more value out of it. Plus, with Virizion, it's very powerful with that stab close combat, with the stab leaf blade, and Sword of Justice legendary. That's very cool pick for a lot of physical damage. Moving on to the Blitz division, our lowest division here. Standings looking at Fernaki and Thud taking up tied for first spot with their +5 wins in the Miami Finns and South Asian Kinglers. And then Be Water My Friend with Naomi, and Alabama for Alligators with Blue Fusion taking up the tied for third spot with +4 wins. So going into their rosters, we look at first we can look at our two top ones, and Fernaki and Thud. Fernaki over here has the Arboliva pick. We see another Arboliva pick similar to Starvin' Pigs, and again we talked about that very much. It can become unkillable with Harvest, but it can also set some terrains and that sort of stuff. Then with Thud, we see a cool one here, Raichu Alola. I don't think I've seen many Raichu Alolas, and it's cool to see that. It's cool to see that pick, honestly. I love seeing that in these lower divisions where we have a lot of newer players, we get to see a lot of interesting picks in our signature spots. So I'm hoping that Thud can continue to do really well with with all right, we just actually had someone to jump in. I would actually love to hear about what Munchlax was. I was saying that because Munchlax is heat. I love the Munchlax pick, but also Munchlax did absolutely nothing in that game, so I'd love to know what that set was. So if you could put the set in the chat, that would be awesome, because Munchlax just kind of went down immediately, and I would love to know what happened there. But anyway, yeah, so Raichu Alola, love to see it. And you know what I also love to see? I love to see it paired with that Tapu Koko. I actually could see this being a really powerful electric core for Thud going into these divisions, and maybe actually enough to push it along quite a bit. And finally, with Naomi and Blue Fusion, Naomi came in with the Electrode Hisui. This is another very fun one that people love, with the Grass type and the Electric type with that Leaf Storm ability, and the ability to get that Terra Blast change into that Ice type for perfect coverage of Electric type. Very common offensive form, especially with how fast it is. And on the other hand, we had, sorry, I'm just... got a lot of names, a lot of divisions. We are really big this year. So we got Blue Fusion 3-2-1, and it's our third Inteleon. So I guess if you've learned anything from this, big stocks, put your stocks in Inteleon signatures and Scrafty signatures. Those two are going big this season. So moving on into our Nightmare division for our VGC, we're looking at our top three are the Dan Chunks, with Yoshi City, Curtibia Typhlosions with Zakiro, and Minas Devil Crobats Andre RM. For those who may be interested in learning about how this is titled, we have two records here. We have two differentials here. We have the amount of games you have above 500, and then we have the amount of kills you have. Obviously, if you have 3 games, you're going to have more kills, more than a person, so that can happen. So that's why you see +7 being down here, but +5 being up here, because this is the games, which overrides that. All right, so we did just get in from Armoody as well. We have our answer to what are, let's see here, let's find this one here. Armoody here, we have the answer. What was this thing? What was this thing? It was Flamethrower, Rock Tomb, Toxic, and Resto Chesto. That's fun. That's a fun one, because now that I'm looking at it, yeah, we have Flamethrower that can help do a lot of damage into that Frostlass. We have we have Rock Tomb 4 times effective on the Mega Charizard, and it was max bulk, so it actually could sit on the Charizard. It was specifically an anti-Mega Charizard pick. And also Surf Typhlosion. So that's really cool. Really cool to see that. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it too much because Baxcalibur was unfortunately in there. But and also we have Kartana on this other team that would have had a Flamethrower. So really cool, actually. That's some heat coming out of this Munchlax. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in this time, but that is actually heat. Turns out Munchlax a lot better than what we saw in this first match. That's a lot of cool moves on that thing, and that is just really cool. Unfortunately, though, with Baxcalibur taking on a ton of damage, it is just, with Baxcalibur taking on a huge role, you just kind of had to just get run into for a little bit. So, but I'm hoping to see more. I better see more Munchlax. If you want, just if I better see Munchlax get some kills. If you get some kills with Munchlax, let me know, and I will put that on this show, because that is awesome. So yeah, I guess quickly covering these, and back to this though. Back to this. Andre, Zakiro, and Dan Chunks will go into theirs real quick. Zanchunks has the Palkia, which is cool. We're not used to seeing a ton of we gotta see Palkia. Palkia's one of those that don't really show up in VGC, mainly because a lot of people choose those, when they have the choice of any restricted. Palkia is not one of the top ones, so it's cool to see that Palkia is there as a non-meta pick, really, and it'll be cool to see how that one goes, and obviously doing really well so far. Also, we have Calyrex Ice. This is a lot more understandable. Calyrex Ice, one of the most dangerous Trick Room sweepers in all of VGC, so we'll have to see a lot what's happened with that. And finally, with, I believe it was Zakiro. Yes, Zakiro with the Typhlosions, rocking with the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh, one of the most dangerous Pokemons, and still can use that Sacred Fire to spread burns like nobody's business. Ho-Oh is another great pick, and it's got an immediate Fire Water Grass Core. You can see here, Ho-Oh, Rillaboom, Iron Bundle. So yeah, very clear why these two are here. They're both pretty meta picks, and then it's cool to see this also, Danchunk's taking his own path and taking a really good team in here with that Palkia, Flutter Mane, Iron Hands, taking on a separate role, which is really cool. And finally, it's been a while, and we're going through, and we got a little sidetracked because we had to talk about Munchlax because Munchlax was awesome. But finally, into our Clangorous division, our top teams are actually 3 plus 6 plus 2, 3 plus 2 plus 6, Lehigh Valley Lunalas with Red SSB, my own team, the Iowa City Night Eyes, shout out, I mean, why am I shouting out myself? That's vain as hell, but it was an awesome battle. I want to shout out to actually my opponent, who was Skyhops, because that was really cool. It was a cool battle. Loved your sets. I mentioned it earlier, but it was Co-Star plus Weakness Policy that you could self-activate. Awesome. Great job. I love that set. That's really cool. And it was also a Sword versus Shield matchup, so that was just a fun matchup overall. And Montreal Quags with that thing. So we're going to go in here. I'll mention myself first because I just mentioned it. Sword versus Shield matchup when I took on Skyhops because I have the Zacian Crowned. This was actually not my first pick. My first pick was actually going to be probably the Calyrex Ice, but that got picked. I was at pick 9. That pick got picked really quickly, and I was thinking, yeah, Calyrex Ice because I wanted to kind of run Trick Room. But then I was like, okay, well then in that case I'm going to run Sun because I like running Sun. I'm going to pick Koraidon and run Sun, and then Koraidon got picked the turn before me. So this ended up being my third pick. I wasn't really sure what to go with, so I was like, screw it, Dog with Big Sword, because when in doubt, slam things into it, and it's now it's actually really fun to use. It's very much similar to my favorite Pokemon in singles, which is that Mega Mawile, so that's really fun. Moving on though to the other two, because I don't want to just make it all about me. The other two, I was looking at our Red SSB and that thing. Red SSB, he's got the, I don't know necessarily, but they've got the Lunala, which is cool. In fact, they are one of those two Sun teams that I mentioned earlier when we were talking about these different teams. The Sun team with Lunala, that's right, they're rocking both Sun and Moon because they've got Ninetales setting the Sun, the third Sun setter, and they've also got the Lunala. Lunala, very powerful with that Shadow Shield, though it is 4 times weak to Dark. A lot of Pokemon are pretty weak to Dark in this tier, with a lot of restricted mons being weak to Dark. So, you have to have your situation for that. But I'm seeing the Grimmsnarl, I'm seeing Roaring Moon with that Sun, and also Lilligant, Hisui, and Arflame. This is a very powerful team. I'm not surprised to see them up at the top. And finally, with that thing, they're rocking the Kyurem Black, which is really cool. Kyurem Black, of course, absolutely shreds. It's like one of those, it's a restricted, better version of Baxcalibur, because it can have that sort of, I don't know if it gets Scale Shot, I would have to look, but it does get that Icicle Spear, Loaded Dice Icicle Spear on just an absolutely monstrous attack stat, and Dragon Dance. Kyurem Black is incredibly threatening, and also has Urshifu Rapid Strike. I really wish I was able to get Urshifu Rapid Strike. I wanted that because it's really good with Zacian Crown, but also just because Rapid Strike, really good, gets through all the protects. It's a nightmare to deal with. So these two together, hugely powerful physical core. Got the Volcarona there with the Rage Powder ability, with the ability to just sweep. Petrarunt as well is cool to see, and Zoroark is always fun as well. So this is another really good team that I can see this one making a lot of noise too. So I understand why all these are at the top. Really cool to see. So I guess, yeah, so this is probably where I'm about to end it. It's been a cool stream going through all this stuff. I definitely in the future would like to in the future, I'm definitely going to want to see some, I'll probably get a new new person with us. We'll get some more people in there because as much as I can talk at a screen for over an hour and a half, I bet it's more fun to actually listen to people interact. I guess shoot, 2 hours at this point it's been. Jesus. But we can definitely we'll bring in more people. I definitely think it'd be cool to even, if people are interested and have some close battles or having some fun matchups, might even bring them in to talk about their matchup specifically. So if you are interested in doing that, I'd be interested in doing that. Overall, hopefully people enjoyed this. I'll try to maybe go in and add some timestamps in the VOD. But I'll definitely add in timestamps for when it's just down to standings at the end, because then people can know that, oh yeah, we're not going to do much more here, so you can just turn off after you watch all the battles, or yeah, stuff like that. So I hope everyone enjoyed, and have a nice day. Yeah, thank you all.